Stephen Paul Jobs was born in San Francisco, California on February 24, 1955 to Abdulfattah Jandali and Joanne Schieble, two graduate students from the University of Wisconsin, who gave him up for adoption. Paul and Clara Jobs adopted and raised him. Steve's biological father, Jandali, was a professor of political science in Syria. His mother, Schieble, was a speech therapist. Shortly after Steve was placed for adoption, his biological parents married and had another child, Mona Simpson. He only got to learn about his biological parents when he was 27. Steve got his name from his parents, who adopted him, naming him Stephen Paul Jobs. Clara worked as an accountant and Paul was a veteran and machinist on the Coast Guard. He lived in Mountain View, California, with his adoptive son within the area that would later become known as Silicon Valley. As a boy, Steve Jobs and his father were always in the family garage working on electronics. Paul showed his son how to dismantle and reconstruct electronics, a hobby that gave young Jobs confidence, tenacity, and mechanical prowess. He showed an early interest in electronics and gadgetry and spent a great deal of time working in a neighbor's garage workshop who worked at a computer company, Hewlett-Packard. While Job was always a smart and innovative thinker, he was riddled with frustrations about formal schooling. Jobs had trouble thriving in a traditional classroom, tended to resist figures of authority. He often misbehaved and was suspended several times. Jobs became a prankster owing to boredom in high school, so his fourth grade tutor had to bribe him to study. However, Jobs performed so highly that officials decided to skip him ahead to high school, a suggestion his parents declined. Job also enrolled with the Hewlett-Packard Explorer Club. He saw developers presenting revolutionary technologies there, and at the age of 12, he had his first computer. He instinctively realized he wanted to deal with computers. Jobs attended classes at Hewlett-Packard plant while still in high school. On one occasion, he boldly requested from Williams Hewlett some parts he needed to complete a class project. Hewlett was so impressed that he gave the parts to Jobs and offered him a Hewlett-Packard summer internship. During his last 2 years in high school, Jobs had established two distinct passions, electronics and literature. In his senior year, such double desires were mainly expressed as his best friends were Wozniak, who was attending the University of California, Berkeley, and his first love, the talented junior, Christian Brennan. Jobs would always visit Wozniak in Berkeley every week, and thus enrolled in nearby Stanford University to keep tabs with him. Wozniak designed a low-cost digital blue box around that time to generate tones needed to manipulate the telephone network, allowing long-distance calls to be made free. Jobs then decided to sell them and share the income with Wozniak. The illicit blue boxes convert sales went well and maybe planted the seed in Jobs' head that technology may be both enjoyable and lucrative. The young entrepreneur enrolled in Reed's College in Portland, Oregon after high school. Lacking guardians, after 6 months, he dropped out of college without telling his parents because he did not want to waste their money on an education that seemed useless to him. He spent the next 18 months at the school checking in on creative classes. During this time, he was sleeping on the floor in the dorm rooms of friends, returning Coke bottles for food money and getting free meals weekly at the local Hare Krishna temple. Later, Jobs recounted how one calligraphy course established his love for typography. Steve returned to his parents' home in Los Altos in February 1974 and started looking for a job. He was quickly employed in Los Gatos, California by Atari Incorporated, who offered him a position as a technician. Steve Wozniak built his version of the famous arcade game Pong back in 1973 and gave the board to Jobs. Jobs was only employed by Atari, according to Wozniak, when he brought the board down to the corporation because they figured he had designed it himself. He left the company several months later to find spiritual enlightenment in India and even experimented with psychedelic drugs. Job was assigned to create a circuit board for the arcade video game Breakout in mid-1975 after returning to Atari. For each TTL chip removed in the computer, Atari offered $100. Steve had little specialized knowledge of circuit board, designed and made a deal with Wozniak that they would evenly split the fee between them if Wozniak could minimize the number of chips. Wozniak had the job done to the amazement of the Atari engineers. The business genius, however, unequally shared the collaboration's profits with Wozniak. The pair attended Homebrew Computer Club meetings in 1975, which was a stepping stone for the first Apple computer to be produced and commercialized. He and Wozniak started Apple Computers in Steve's family garage in 1976 when Steve was only 21. They financed their business venture by Jobs selling his Volkswagen Boss and Wozniak selling his favorite science calculator. Jobs and Wozniak are credited with revolutionizing computer industry with Apple by democratizing the technology and rendering computers smaller, faster, more efficient, and more available to everyday consumers. Wozniak designed a series of user-friendly personal computers, and with Jobs handling the marketing, Apple initially marketed the computers for $666.66 each. The Apple I earned around $774,000 for the company. 3 years after the release of Apple's second model, Apple II, the sales of the company increased to $139 million by 700%. Apple Computer became a publicly traded company in 1980 with a market value of $1.2 billion by the close of its very first trading day. Jobs was looking to Pepsi-Cola's marketing expert, John Sculley, to assume the role of CEO for Apple. However, the next few Apple products experienced major design defects, leading to recalls and customer disappointment. IBM immediately overtook Apple in sales, and Apple had to deal with an IBM PC-dominated business world. Apple launched the Macintosh in 1984, advertising the computer as a piece of lifestyle counterculture, sexy, youthful, and creative. Despite positive sales and performance superior to IBM's PCs, the Macintosh was not IBM compatible. Sculley claimed that Jobs negatively impacted Apple and executives of the company started phasing him out. Jobs was forced into a more marginalized position, not having even an official title with the organization he co-founded, and thus left Apple in 1985. Jobs launched a new hardware and software company named Next Incorporated after quitting Apple in 1985. The organization floundered in its efforts to market its proprietary operating system to corporate America, and ultimately Apple acquired the product for $429 million in 1996. Jobs returned to his role as CEO of Apple in 1997 and immediately instigated the rise of Apple in the 1970s. He's credited with rejuvenating the company in the 1990s. Jobs brought Apple back on track with a new management team, changed stock options, and a yearly self-imposed $1 salary. Customers' interest was again drawn by Jobs' innovative devices such as the iMac, positive promotional campaigns, and trendy designs. In the years that followed, Apple launched such groundbreaking products as the MacBook Air, iPod, and iPhone, all dictating technology evolution. Immediately Apple launched a new model, competitors rushed to develop comparable technologies. Apple's quarterly results dramatically improved in 2007. In essence, stocks were worth $199.99 a share, a record-breaking amount at the time, and the corporation reported a whopping $1.58 billion revenue, a bank surplus of $18 billion, and zero debt. Apple became America's second biggest music retailer in 2008, second only to Walmart, propelled by sales of iTunes and iPods. Apple was also ranked number 1 on the list of America's most admired companies by Fortune 500, as well as number 1 Fortune 500 companies for shareholders' returns. Steve Jobs bought an entertainment company from George Lucas in 1996, which later became Pixar Animation Studios. Believing in the potential of Pixar, Jobs originally invested $50 million of his own money into the company. The studio went on to make incredibly popular movies like Toy Story, Finding Nemo, and The Incredibles. Collectively, Pixar films have generated $4 billion. In 2006, the company merged with Walt Disney, making Jobs the biggest shareholder in Disney. In 2011, Forbes estimated the bulk of Jobs' net worth from his 2006 sale of Pixar to the Walt Disney Company at about $6.5 billion to $7 billion. However, if Jobs had not sold his Apple holdings in 1985, his net wealth would have reached a whopping $36 billion. At the family front, Jobs and Lorraine Powell married on March 18, 1991. The pair met at Stanford Business School in early 1990s, where Powell was an MBA graduate. They lived together with their 3 children, Reed, Erin, and Eve, in Palo Alto, California. Job also fathered a daughter, Lisa, in 1978 when he was 23 with girlfriend Chrisan Brennan. The prolific technologist had a plethora of awards and honors to his name. A few of them include 1985 National Medal of Technology with Steve Wozniak, awarded by US President Ronald Reagan. In 1987 Jefferson Award for Public Service, 1989 Entrepreneur of the Decade by Inc. magazine, 1991 Howard Volume Award from Reed College, 2007 named the most influential person in business by Fortune magazine. In 2007 inducted into California Hall of Fame, located at the California Museum for History, Women and the Arts. In 2012 Grammy Trustees Award, an award for those who have influenced the music industry in areas unrelated to performance. 2013 posthumously inducted as a Disney legend. 2017 Steve Jobs Theater opens at Apple Park. Steve Jobs was a business magnate, an investor, and industrial designer. He is widely reputed as the charismatic pioneer of a personal computer. He registered his footprint in the digital revolution of technology and will forever be remembered for his contributions. Thank you very much for watching our videos. We'd like to give you another exciting video for you to enjoy next. Still, before then, our team will be thrilled if you can like this video and share it with your friends on social media. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss other exciting videos like this. Look at your screen now and see 2 other videos we handpicked for you to enjoy next. We love you.